Hey Max, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent, thanks. Hey, thanks for agreeing to be a Meet the Media series person. Tell us, what have you been up to while in lockdown?
The same thing that I've been up to for the last 25 years, which is working from home and drinking too much. And I've used that line. Probably that's it. I'm not going to use that anymore because I've used that enough now. That line. As a freelance, self-employed person who spends most of their time doing this, sitting in front of a computer and tasting wine, it's really not that different. I've been working from home for 25 years pretty much. So uh, it's not so easy for the other members of the family who aren't used to having us all here all the time. But it actually hasn't been that different, and I wonder whether that hasn't meant that I've been feeling in a little bit of a bubble and haven't really been realizing how serious this thing is, because I don't know anybody who's come down with it. I don't go out. My mum's safe in her retirement village. She's locked away from the world, not literally. So I kind of feel like I'm pretty lucky, actually, to be honest.
Oh, that's really good for you and your family. Max, the book. Tell us about the book.
So I am in the final stages of editing the book. I'm just saying this is all I can show you is a bunch of paper with red marks on it. I'd like to be able to show you the cover, but the marketing people say don't go too early, because it's not meant to be out until August.
Right.
Unlike quite a few other big books which have been postponed because of everything that's happening, this is going ahead at this stage, which is fantastic. It's called Intoxicating: 10 Drinks That Shaped Australia. So pretty self-explanatory, really. It's the story of 10 drinks. Obviously, there's a lot more than 10 in the book, but it's pretty much 10 big stories that tell a broader history of drinking in Australia over the last, well, more than 230 years.
That sounds very exciting. I also heard some exciting rumours that you've got some gig going on with the University of Melbourne.
I am an honorary fellow in the history department at the University of Melbourne, which I'm really, really excited about. I've also been doing some wine studies teaching there, which is great fun. Unfortunately, this was fantastically exciting at the beginning of the year, and I was really looking forward to doing the second round of teaching in July. But as you know, education has been completely disrupted by what's going on, and universities are still working out how the future is going to pan out, and it looks like that's all being put on hold until the beginning of next year. But the honorary fellowship will involve research. The history book has kind of really reinforced how much I love just delving into the archives, delving into the records, discovering things that perhaps people haven't seen before or for a very long time, putting connections together between a lot of this research. And so it was a real privilege to be able to get that opportunity at Melbourne Uni. Don't know what it's going to end up as in the future. It might be another book, although at the end of writing this one, I don't think I'll ever write a book again.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
So Meet the Media is all about finding out about you and about behind the scenes. So share something with us that nobody else might know.
Now, you have noticed behind me when we spoke before that there is a mandolin case. Would you like me to get the mandolin out?
Totally would love you to get the mandolin out.
Now, I'm only showing you this because it's actually quite a special history thing again. It's quite a special old mandolin. It was made in Melbourne in 1927. So, yeah, 1927,
wow,
by an Italian migrant called Giovanni Cera. And it is probably one of his first mandolins. If you can you see that on the headstock there?
Yeah, it's got a bat.
Mother of pearl inlaid bat.
Wow.
Why? Nobody knows. But it's not a bad little instrument. I'm borrowing it. I'm looking after it for somebody until the lockdown finishes, and he might not get it back. But that's all you get.
Very impressive, very impressive. We know what we'll get you to do at the next WCA function. That's very special. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, Max, are you still receiving wine samples? And if you are, how do you prefer to receive them?
Yes, I am, so unfortunately the Gourmet Traveller column that I've had for 16 years has been put on pause. That's what I was told. And Gourmet Traveller Wine, I stopped writing for at the beginning of the year. That was my choice. I felt it was time for a change. But the Financial Review, JancesRobinson.com, still going very strong. Organic Gardener magazine. I don't know whether anybody knows I even write for Organic Gardener magazine, one of the ABC publications. So if you're an certified organic or biodynamic producer, please get in touch, because I'm always looking out for wines to review in Organic Gardener. Captive audience, I'd say. And so there is still plenty of opportunities. I'm doing a lot of increasing amounts online, social media, Twitter and Instagram. And I will be doing more tastings online, I think, because the samples are still coming. I'm tasting some beautiful wines. Don't always have a slot for them in the printed media or online versions of those articles. So yes, and this is regardless of whether we're in the pandemic or not. Before sending any samples, please contact in advance. Let me know what you intend to send. And I don't want to waste anybody's time by sending 12 wines, of which I might only review one. That's pointless. If I've just reviewed, for example, lots of Gamay, which is what I'm trying right now, which is Gamay from the Macedon Ranges from Lyons Will, lovely beautiful autumnal wine, actually. If I review that, I'm unlikely to want to review a Macedon Ranges Gamay again in the near future, because I've only got a limited amount of space. So it's always worth contacting in advance by email, max@maxallen.com.au, and saying, is now a good time to send these wines? I might get back to you and say, no, now's not a good time, maybe wait for another 6 months. Or I might say, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking to taste at the moment, please send. So it's just, I look at the amount of wine that has come in over the years, and I think that's such a waste of energy, of money, of effort. It's always worth getting in touch in advance.
Although I do notice your racks behind you are quite empty, so maybe people should be sending more, Max.
Yeah, they're on the way to go somewhere else. They're not the actual racks.
Oh.
The racks are in the other room.
Great, that's really good to know. Talking about online, you were saying about what's the best thing you've seen online lately?
I haven't been watching any virtual tastings, I'm sorry. As somebody said the other day, a lot of virtual wine tastings, unless you've actually got the wine in front of you at the same time as the person on the other side of the screen, you'd rather just poke your eyes out with matches, really, wouldn't you? I mean, they're just boring. I can tell you this is a lovely autumnal Gamay and spend about 2 seconds doing it, but that's just red wine to you. You've got no idea. So I haven't been watching virtual wine tastings. Sorry. I have been. I was a guest a couple of weeks ago on Mac Forbes's Tuesday Tipples, I think he calls it, on Instagram. And I enjoyed watching some of Mike Benny's. I was in the middle of cooking dinner, couldn't watch the whole thing the other night, because most of the conversation wasn't about that. It was about their lives. It was about people. It was about the connections. It was about their relationship. And this is, I think, one of the really, really interesting lessons about this whole period is that it is forcing everybody to think about the essence of what they do and the essence of the relationship that they have with the reader or the customer or the partner, no matter however you want to use the language, and to think about the best way that you can make that connection. And just jumping online and selling your wine by saying, isn't it delicious, please buy it, it's not really making a connection. It's not really engaging with the person on the other side of the screen. In some cases it might be, but I think the things that I have seen online in the wine community have been where people are having really fantastic conversations.
And I guess, as you say, they're connecting with their consumers. And also, when you just do a wine tasting, and I don't have a Gamay in my hand, but when you just do a wine tasting, you're almost doing exactly what you shouldn't be doing, and that is making a little bit difficult to understand or frightening for people. So interesting comment. Tell us, Max, what's your message to wineries or wine producers out there during this current time?
I think that is the message. I think use this is something I heard this on a online forum that's well worth listening to if you get a chance, that was organised by Dan Sims from Revel, where it was a bunch of people who organise mass gatherings of wine festivals and beer festivals that has obviously stopped overnight, that whole thing. And the people who were in the forum said, well, if the very reason for your being, which is to organise events where thousands of people crowd together, disappears overnight, then you have to ask yourself what it is. If you haven't got that, what have you got? And a lot of people are realising that events or cellar doors or new mailing lists are not about the delivery of the product. It's about forming connections and engaging with each other. And people come to your event or your cellar door repeatedly because they love that connection. So even though you haven't got the cellar door or the event or the tasting or the dinner or the lunch, how can you capture what is essential about you and communicate it that isn't just doing what everybody else is doing, that is something that is unique to you? And I think this is an opportunity for people in the wine community to discover that, what is unique about themselves. And I think that's actually quite precious. This time, as fraught as it is and as difficult as it is and as difficult as it's going to become, is an incredible opportunity to just step back and to reflect on why we're doing this in the first place. I think that's the way I'm seeing it. And it's really tough, actually, because sometimes you don't want to have that conversation with yourself. Why are you doing this? Why am I doing this? But I think if you do have that conversation, it can be very rewarding.
That's fantastic advice. And I want to say thanks so much for being on our Meet the Media activity. It's been fun, and stay safe and keep drinking that wine.
Shall do. Cheers.
Bye.